we're in the beginning of the book of Kings, chapter 1, and we are up to verse 7, verse Zion 7. Now, what we mentioned before was the fact that David HaMelech did not rebuke Adoniyahu, and that was surprise because, of course, you don't have to be a great scholar to know that in order to bring up a good children, you do need to rebuke them. You know, they need to be educated, and chinuch is one of the things that in Judaism was always Jewish people were always concentrated a lot on the chinuch of their children, educating their children, and you can't expect something to come out good if you don't. Children don't just grow up on their own. You need to educate them. Yes, Ben.
But it says that Chagit bore an Adoniyahu after Avshalom.
Yeah, and what does that mean? The commentaries all struggle. What are you bringing from that verse?
I thought that's maybe what she was asking you.
That's who was asking me? Penina. What Penina was asking.
Right.
Oh, in other words, from the verse, it sounds that way. It sounds like she gave birth to both. Okay, good point, Ben. Yeah, the commentaries all struggle to figure out what that means. That Chagit gave birth to him after Avshalom, and you're going back in verse 6 where it mentions that Oisai Yolda Adoniyahu she gave birth to after Avshalom, and
they were both good looking.
And they were both good looking, and interestingly enough, both of them had chariot and riders, and men run before them.
50 of them
had men run before them. Look back in the book of Samuel in chapter 15 over there, in Samuel 2, it mentions over there this idea that that they had people running, that there were people running after Avshalom. If we pull it up here on Sefaria, let me just pull it up here on Shmuel.
It's like having a limo today.
Well, it's right. A limo and having people run after you is more like a great honor, having these like the red carpet.
So maybe it's time-wise not the same mother.
No, but it's definitely not the same mother. So that's what the commentary is right. So it obviously is in time that he was born after Avshalom. But So what do the commentaries say about this? That he was born after Avshalom. So one of the understandings is that he's the oldest son alive. He was born after Avshalom, so he's the oldest son alive. That's one.
The two older ones are dead.
Right. Well, two are dead, are passed away, are dead, and a third one who's older. Either he also died, Kilov, or he is not interested in being king. Now, let me just pull up. I told you I'd pull up the verse from the book of Samuel, Samuel 2, chapter 15. It says, Avshalom made a Merkava chariot, the Susim, and horses, and 50 people running before him.
The same number, that's what I said.
He used to rise early and stand by the road to the city gates, and when a person would come for to bring their case to the king, he would he would schmooze with them. Where you from? And when he answered, your servant is from such and such a tribe in Israel, Avshalom would say to him, it's clear that your claim is right and you're just. But there was no one assigned to you by the king to hear it. They're not going to judge you. If only I were appointed judge and everyone came before me, I would see that you got the proper judgment. And, that was Avshalom's thing. Now, going back to the question. So we just mentioned that one of the understandings that Avshalom was born, that Adoniyahu was born after Avshalom. So one of the interpretations was that he's the next in line for the king. Another interpretation is that he was born after Avshalom, that his mother brought him up with the same style as Avshalom's mother, which basically means that they did not educate their children properly. Their children grew up very arrogant. And they both basically were brought up in the same style. Now, I was mentioning about King David. What was, what exactly was he thinking when he did not rebuke his son? So yesterday I mentioned one interpretation, that he never needed to be rebuked because he never did anything wrong. He was like that angel child that didn't sin, never was disrespectful. He always did what he was told. So there wouldn't like almost no time for David. David had no reason to rebuke him. And the Talmud says that surprising thing that you have to, even if a child is good, he needs to be rebuked, even though he's good. You have to rebuke him, which sounds surprising, but this is the source. This is one of these, this would possibly be the source for that idea, that even though a child is good, he needs to he needs to be educated and needs that rebuke. And how to do it is another story. How do you rebuke him? So yesterday Ben was mentioning that, he might not have done anything wrong, but maybe he could have done things better, and you could rebuke him in that way, that he could do things in a better way. But however it is, you need to find a situation where he deserves, or you could rebuke him, and then rebuke him just so that just in order simply for him to be educated properly. Now, there is another interesting point here, and that is that there's a way of reading this, that David HaMelech did not rebuke him in this matter. In what matter? In the matter of his arrogance, he wasn't rebuked. In the matter of him feeling important, in that matter of his not being humble, David HaMelech never rebuked him. And according to that interpretation, that understanding, it's based on the fact that maybe David did rebuke his child, just not regarding that matter, the matter of arrogance. And the reason David would not have rebuked him, possibly, is because David HaMelech himself was so humble that he didn't see any negativity in other people when it comes to this matter. In other words, you don't see in others faults unless you have them somewhat yourself. When you have these faults yourself, you see it in others. It's much more revealed because it somehow it somehow touches a nerve in you because you have this problem. And so you're sensitive to it, self-conscious. What was the word, Ben? What did you say?
You're familiar with it.
You're familiar with it. You're looking out to it. You're sensitive with this. You're self-conscious about it. So it touches a nerve in you. It somehow affects you. And here, David HaMelech was humble, and he didn't have this arrogance at all. So he didn't really see it. It didn't, because of that, it caused that Adoniyahu would fail in this matter, would basically have this bad trait. And David HaMelech.
Rabbi, I
Your,
can't hear you.
li- your lips are moving.
But we can't hear anything.
Cable must have disconnected.
We're having very severe thunderstorms in the area, Miami-Dade and Broward County right now. That could be the cause.
Baruch Hashem.
Any hail?
Not yet. Not yet. But it does look ugly out there.
We still see just your lips moving and no voice.
Rabbi, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I know, he may be able to hear us, but we can't hear him.
Yeah.
He's silenced. He's muted.
So maybe he's trying to call in.
He hears us and he's working on it. And he's muted, it doesn't matter because when he's unmuted, it's the same problem he's having. And he knows about it.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Baruch
Yeah.
Hashem.
Okay. So
Why does
The
it show
short-
you're muted? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
on the other
problem-
one. Okay. You dialed it separately. Baruch Hashem.
the problem was that my phone that I was using for the microphone, it conked out. So I just attached it to the charger. My
Can I
mistake. I
say
should
one
have.
more thing, Rabbi?
Yes.
Yeah, I think David was rejected and probably rebuked most of his young life by his brothers especially. So maybe that's why he's not using it on his kids.
That's a very interesting point, that he suffered from his childhood, and
Yeah.
he didn't want his children to suffer. Mhm. Okay, good thinking. Good thinking. Now, the Alshach has an interesting point here. He mentions that it says "V'loi atzavai aviv miyamav," and he translates it to mean his father never saddened him when he was young. And he says if you don't rebuke a child when they're young, when they get older, you're not going to be able to rebuke them. It's too late. You have to rebuke a child in his young years. And he says that's the meaning. There's a saying from the Alter of Kelm, who was a famous Baal Musar, a person who followed the Musar style of religious group, that he said that the pasuk says, "Chanoich lenar al pi darka," if you educate a child on his path, even when he gets older, he won't separate himself from it. Which he translates it to mean that you got to educate a child when he's young, because then when he's older, he'll appreciate rebuke. That, in other words, if you don't educate him at a young age to be rebuked, when he gets older, he's not going to ever wanna get any advice. He won't want to get told off. He won't be able to accept it. He won't listen to anyone. So educating a child in his youth is very is very important.
Rabbi,
Teaching children to handle rebuke. Yes, David.
is there anything mentioned in Judaism about the dilemma where the father is trying to rebuke appropriately? I don't mean overdoing it, but appropriately, and the mother is protective of the child and trying to either undermine or stop the rebuke on a regular basis.
That happens every single day in a Jewish household.
Oh, I'm just checking. I thought it was just us. Yeah. Okay.
But I
That's-
think
How
you
do you-
meant,
how do you
Rabbi,
deal with
I think
Yeah.
you meant the impressionable years is when you have to rebuke him.
The Talmud says that you rebuke with your left hand, with your left, small doicha, and yamin mekareves. The left side is doicha, pushes away, and the right side pulls close. And on a simple, the simple meaning of that is that the weaker hand is what you use to rebuke, and the right hand is what you use to show love, which means you always show much more love than rebuke. If you ever want to rebuke someone, you got to compliment them 100 times before they can handle one word of rebuke. So the Talmud says you use the left the left side for doicha, to push away, which basically means rebuke, and your right hand, which is stronger, you use to bring close. Now, that also, listen, if in a household, one of the benefits is that, even if one of the parents rebukes the child, the other parent can show love, but it doesn't mean that they take away the rebuke. Oh, you didn't do anything wrong. No, you were fine. In other words, if there's an argument where the father claims the child did something wrong, and the wife claims, don't listen to him, you did nothing wrong, and don't, that's a different story. But as long as the wife is just showing love and not disagreeing with the rebuke, just she's showing love, that's where that's a very normal situation, and that's the I think educators encourage that maybe one parent would possibly
Rabbi, I have a question.
do the rebuke,
Rabbi?
while other parent shows warmth. Yes, Susan.
Is the word reprimand the same as rebuke?
So now you think I'm a dictionary. I'm not.
No, I know
Rabbi.
you're a brilliant Torah scholar, and I need confirmation, because there is a slight difference in English between reprimand and rebuke. Rebuke, I think, is with more love than reprimand.
Okay, well, maybe rebuke has more love than reprimand, so maybe rebuke would fit, because we always say small doicha yamin mekareves, the left side pushes aside, but the right side has to bring close, so there has to be some love there. In fact, rebuke never works if there's no love. The whole concept of rebuke is an act of love. Okay. Because it says if you don't rebuke your child, you hate him. Choisech shivtai soinei b'nai. If you there's a withhold the rod, you hate someone who hates their son. And
now you're making a lot more sense. Now I understand much better what rebuke means. Much better. Thank you.
So then I guess rebuke would be the correct word. Okay,
Rabbi,
yeah.
I was talking about you said that there's two examples. The second example is appropriate, where the wife is interjecting at appropriate times. But what if she's constantly in situations where she's constantly stopping the rebuke in order to protect the child? How does Torah say to deal with that situation? That was my question.
So yeah, so in such a situation, they probably should go to some type of a therapist or a rabbi and get advice of what's the appropriate thing. Maybe there are parents that are too abusive or they do too much, and there are mothers that refuse any. You could have all types. So you have to know there has to be some type of a balance that there's obviously an issue with that should be advised by professionals.
Also, it causes the child a lot of confusion if that happens. They don't know who to listen to.
So it needs more professional. You can't just give a general answer, but obviously there has to be some type of a balance in there. You don't want it to get to the extent of what you would call abuse. So there has to that, but at the same time, rebuking a child is very important. Now,
I was asking, I guess, it's not necessarily the idea going for professional help, but the idea of Musar Safarim or other Safarim within Yiddishkeit that advise a person, because I'm sure this is not an uncommon thing. I'm sure that this is a fairly common thing also.
Rabbi.
Okay, yeah, I'm not
Rabbi.
the right guy to ask.
Moshe, 1 second. He's trying to answer my question. 1 second. Hold on a second.
Yeah, but I've been trying to get through for some time already. And then
I'll answer you in a second. Moshe, just to give one more minute. David, I don't think I'm the right guy to ask. Baruch Hashem, I'm very blessed. My wife doesn't mix in when I rebuke our children, so I don't have experience in it. But I don't know that you need a professional. I mean, that you need to go to professional help. I'm just saying you should get advice from someone who deals with these type of things and deals in education. Maybe could advise. It could you could discuss what what the situations are. You need people. You need to explain what the exact scenario was and which side is doing the right thing. Okay, Moshe, yes.
What about the Akedah with Yitzchok and Abraham? Is that hard love, or is that abuse? I mean, to take your son to be psychologically.
That you have to understand. First of all,
that's a lesson. That's a lesson that we are.
He was 37 years old at the time. Okay, so we're not dealing with a young child there. They're two adults, and that was a command. It was not like a situation of rebuke or education. It was, this was a unique case of Mesiras Nefesh, giving for God, giving over everything of his for God, and it's not really a part of this discussion. It's really a different discussion. It deserves many sessions on, but it's not really connected to this idea. Okay, so getting back to education and how David HaMelech educated Adoniyahu. Now, what it comes out here is that there is an alternative meaning to being born after Avshalom, is that the mother, the same. As I just mentioned before our discussion, that the Medrash uses this interpretation that the mother of Avshalom acted similarly, and Chagit followed the same way Avshalom was brought up. She did the same thing and basically made the same mistake. And this is additional to, this added to the problem. And what do I mean? Well, what I mean is that, you could say that David HaMelech, why did Hashem not allow David to see this issue? And the answer is that, there was the mother that should have been able to educate Adoniyahu. But the problem was the mother didn't act in the proper way of trying to educate him. Now, in addition to the mother not rebuking Adoniyahu, and the father not rebuking Adoniyahu, then there was a third issue, and that is that he himself, being so handsome looking, and it says that he was toiv toyar ma'oid, he was very handsome, that added to the problem. So not only is he arrogant being the prince, one of the princes, but he's also, his father's not rebuking him, his mother's not rebuking him, and he himself has the handsome look that is a cause for arrogance as well, which is a major flaw in one's character.